Section 2, the Song of Songs, resuming Genesis, wonder. From General Audience number 108, delivered on May 23rd, 1984. This section is additional to the content delivered on May 23rd, as it is part of John Paul II's hidden talks that were not discovered until many years later. In relation to the rereading of the language of the body and the truth, and thus also in relation to the reality of the sacramental sign of marriage, we should analyze, even if only in summary fashion, also that entirely special book of the Old Testament, namely, the Song of Songs. The theme of the spousal love that unites man and woman connects this part of the Bible in some way with the whole tradition of the great analogy, which flows through the writings of the prophets into the New Testament, and especially into Ephesians. See Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 to 33. One should immediately add, however, that in the Song of Songs, the theme is not treated within the sphere of the analogy of the love of God toward Israel or the love of Christ for the church in Ephesians. The theme of spousal love in this singular biblical poem lies outside that great analogy. The love of bridegroom and bride in the Song of Songs is a theme by itself, and in this lies the singularity and originality of that book. It has become the model of many, the object of many exegetical studies, commentaries, and hypotheses. With regard to its content, apparently secular, the positions have varied. On the one hand, it has been placed among books forbidden to read, and on the other hand, it has been the source of the inspiration of the greatest mystical writers, and the verses of the Song of Songs have been inserted into the Church's liturgy. Although the analysis of the text of this book obliges us to situate its content outside the sphere of the great prophetic analogy, it is not possible to separate it from the reality of the primordial sacrament. It is not possible to reread it except along the lines of what is written in the first chapters of Genesis as a testimony of the beginning, of that beginning to which Christ appealed in his decisive conversation with the Pharisees from Matthew chapter 19, verses 4. The Song of Songs is certainly found in the wake of this sacrament, in which, through the language of the body, the visible sign of man and woman's participation in the covenant of grace and love offered by God to man is constituted. The Song of Songs demonstrates the richness of this language, whose first sketch is already found in Genesis chapter 2, verses 23 to 25. Here are the first verses of the song. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Draw me after you. Let us make haste. We will exult and rejoice for you. We will remember your tender caresses. From Song of Songs, chapter 1, verses 2 and 4. These words lead us immediately into the atmosphere of the whole poem, in which the bridegroom and the bride seem to move in the circle traced by the inner irradiation of love. The words, movements, and gestures of the spouses, their whole behavior correspond to the inner movement of their hearts. It is only through the prism of this movement that one can understand the language of the body. In this impulse, which penetrates from one person to the other, that discovery occurs. One does not know how often, but certainly in a unique and unrepeatable way, which the first male, man, expressed in front of her who had been created as a, quote, help like himself, from Genesis chapter 2, verses 20 and 23. And who had been created, as the biblical text reports, from his ribs. Rib also seems to indicate the heart. This discovery, already analyzed on the basis of Genesis chapter 2, clothes itself in the Song of Songs with all the richness of the language of human love. What was barely expressed in the second chapter of Genesis, verses 23 to 25, in just a few simple and essential words, is developed here in a full dialogue, or rather in a duet, in which the bridegroom's words are interwoven with the bride's, and they complete each other. On seeing the woman created by God, man's first words express wonder and admiration, or even better, the sense of fascination. And a similar fascination, which is wonder and admiration, runs in fuller form through the verses of the Song of Songs. It runs, to tell the truth, in a peaceful and even wave from the beginning to the end of the poem. It is a voice and a duet. It is speaking and conversing. One can say that it is precisely this reciprocal language of the body that testifies through all the richness of meanings of which it is composed, in what way in the prism of human hearts the sign of spousal union is formed and develops, which has become a sacramental sign in the eternal economy of the covenant and of grace, a sign of marriage as a sacrament. Even a summary analysis of the text of the Song of Songs allows one to hear in that reciprocal fascination the language of the body. The point of departure as well as the point of arrival for this fascination, reciprocal wonder and admiration, are in fact the bride's femininity and the bridegroom's masculinity in the direct experience of their visibility. The words of love spoken by both of them are therefore concentrated on the body, not so much because in itself it constitutes the source of reciprocal fascination, but above all because the attraction toward the other person, toward the other eye, female or male, which in the inner impulse of the heart gives rise to love, lingers directly and immediately on it. In addition, love unleashes a special experience of the beautiful, which focuses on what is beautiful, although at the same time it involves on what is visible, although at the same time it involves the entire person. The experience of beauty gives rise to pleasure, which is reciprocal. Quote, "O most beautiful among women," Song chapter 1 verse 8, the bridegroom says. And the bride's words echo back to him. Quote, "I am black but beautiful, O daughters of Jerusalem," from Song chapter 1 verse 5. The words of the enchanted man are repeated continually, and they return in all 5 songs of the poem. Your cheeks are beautiful between pendants, your neck between strings of pearls. How beautiful you are, my beloved. How beautiful you are. Your eyes are doves. From Song of Songs, chapter 1, verses 10 and 15. And immediately we hear her answer. How beautiful you are, my beloved. How graceful. From verse 16. In the second song, we return to the same words, enriched by new themes. Arise, my friend, my beautiful one, and come away. O my dove, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. From Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 13 and 14. The same image, at once an image of experience and an image of the person who is present in the experience, reappears even more fully in the 4th song. How beautiful you are, my friend. How beautiful you are. Your eyes are doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats moving down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of shorn ewes that have come up from the washing, all of which come in pairs, and not one among them is without companion. Your lips are like a crimson thread, and your mouth is suffused with grace. Your cheeks are like halves of a pomegranate behind your veil. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built like a fortress. Your 2 breasts are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle, that feed among the lilies. You are altogether beautiful, my friend. There is no flaw in you. From Song of Psalms, chapter 4, verses 1 through 4a, and verses 5 and 7. The metaphors of the Song of Songs can surprise us today. Many of them were taken from the life of shepherds. Others seem to indicate the royal status of the bridegroom. The analysis of that poetic language should be left to the experts. The very fact of adopting metaphors shows how much, in our case, the language of the body seeks support and confirmation in the whole visible world. This is without doubt a language reread at one and the same time with the heart and eyes of the bridegroom, in the act of a special concentration on the whole female eye of the bride. This eye speaks to him through every feminine trait, giving rise to that state of mind that can be defined as fascination, enchantment. This female eye expresses itself without words. Nevertheless, the language of the body expressed without words finds a rich echo in the bridegroom's words, in his speech, full of poetic transport and of metaphors bearing witness to the experience of beauty, to a love filled with pleasure. While the metaphors of the song search for an analogy of this beauty in the various things of the visible world, in this world which is the bridegroom's own world, at the same time, they seem to indicate the insufficiency of each of these particular analogies. You are all beautiful, my friend, and there is no spot in you. Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 7. The bridegroom ends his song with this word, leaving all metaphors behind, in order to turn to the only one through whom the language of the body seems to express the integrum of femininity and the integrum of the person. On her part, the bride speaks a similar language. Return, my beloved. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountain of fragrances. Another time, by contrast, she confides to her companions. His appearance is like Lebanon, choice as the cedars. Sweetness is his palate, and he is all delights. This is my beloved. This is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Song of Songs, chapter 5, verses 15 and 16. We will continue the analysis of the Song of Songs in the next general audience.